All right, I'm here with the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Jedi himself. Look at you. Got plaques on plaques on plaques.
Hey, the Lord is good.
He is good, isn't he? Once you tell people who you are, because I'll just mess it up. You know what I mean?
Hi, my name is Derek Miner, hip hop artist, producer, record label owner, et cetera, and all around Marvel fan.
There you go.
You know what I'm saying?
Hey, listen. I'm glad you brought that up. My my 9-year-old will not leave me alone about all things Marvel related.
Yeah.
And I need to settle a bet. What is the oldest comic book?
The oldest?
Yeah. I don't know. That's why I'm asking you.
Ooh, that's interesting. If you're asking which came first out of the Marvel or DC, I think it's DC.
Right, but what is it? Is it Superman?
I think it's Batman.
Is it?
I think it is.
I'm a terrible father.
I think it's Batman.
I'm a terrible father. All right, well, we are live.
I could be wrong, though.
We could be wrong. All right, we're going to sell. That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, because it started off as, DC, Detective Comics. Yeah, so it would definitely, I think, Detective Comics. That's what DC is. So it would make sense that it would be Batman.
But
I don't know if it.
I thought Superman is first. No?
Let's find out.
No, we're supposed to know these things.
No. Superman or Batman? Who is it?
All right, for those that are just tuning in, you're like, what is going on? First of all,
you were right, Jonah.
Is that right?
Superman literally came like a year before Batman.
Okay.
So I was wrong.
Okay.
Find out.
Okay. Oh, we're supposed to know these things.
Yeah, you're right. It was Superman. So I was wrong, but I mean, they're a year apart. So Superman and Batman.
Well, here's my thing. You can tell a 9-year-old whatever you want because at the end of the day, you're the end all be all, right?
Right. Google got it wrong. I was there. That's what it is. You just say, hey, go to my room. Go to your room.
How dare you? So I think that's what I told him. I think I told him it was Superman first, Batman second. I feel like Captain America is maybe third.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Yep,
anyway, we are not here to talk comic books, even though I bow before your wisdom and knowledge on all things Marvel related.
I'm a Marvel stan.
Yeah. We're here to do a quick live tribute podcast to the late, man, it's hard to even say that, the late Mr. Solo.
Yeah, man.
Of the Gospel Gangsters. And the reason why I have you on is because you hit me the morning of, when I found out about his passing. And you were like, hey, what happened? And then, obviously I've known you, Derek, for quite a while. We've had a really, I think a really close, and I think really honestly, we've always had great conversations. You know what I mean?
You're my brother. You're the only person you're one of the few white people I can be honest with. And it doesn't, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I could literally be totally in opposition to what you're saying, but it is what it is. And that was that. And then it's like, doesn't matter. Like, that's what I call family, is when, it's easy to with someone you agree with all the time, it's easy to say you're a friend with, but real friends you argue with about everything. And you're still friends.
Very true. And so that's kind of why I had you on this podcast, was because we started talking about the legacy of Gospel Gangsters. And to be honest with you, man, I didn't know you were really familiar with their music, because I think you and I we might be 10 years apart.
Yeah.
In age.
About 8.
8 years. Okay. So I thought you kind of missed that whole era. You know what I mean? Yeah. I thought you missed the whole, early Christian hip hop era, but sometimes I forget that, the Gangsters were still around in 2000. That was their biggest album.
Yeah.
And even just through text messages, we were having just this really good back and forth about the significance of their music to you and to me.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty, I think, of art. I think it's the beauty of hip hop, that two people can find two completely different things out of the same art piece,
Yeah.
So I was like, my man, like I was going to do a tribute podcast to them anyway tonight, but I was like, your perspective, I think, has just so much merit and value. So before I jump into, first of all, prayers and condolences to his family.
Yes.
Christian hip hop has really suffered a loss. I heard somebody say that, Mr. Solo's top 5 all time. I tend to agree with that.
I agree.
But I won't go into, my personal thoughts on his music until just a few minutes. I would love to hear, what was the first Gospel Gangsters album you heard, song, what was it that that did it for you?
Yeah, so I wasn't really a big Christian rap fan. I didn't really listen to a lot, but because it didn't really, it never really connected with me. Because like the church I went to wasn't really they didn't really put a lot of emphasis on theology. So it was more of one of those like life lesson type churches. You know what I'm saying? That a lot of Reformed people probably would hate. I went to one of those churches, right, where the pastor kind of
no shots of Reformed people. I think they'd hate a lot of the churches out there.
It's true that, you know what I mean? But I went to one of the ones where the pastor.
It's a strong word. Don't get mad, Calvinists. All right.
Exactly. Look, hey, no, I don't want no smoke with y'all, bro. I'm chilling. But yeah, I went to one of those. So like the Lyrical Miracle CHA stuff never really connected. But it was actually a tape my friend Jerry had brought home, and it was a dubbed over tape. So it wasn't even the official tape. It was just like a white tape that had Gospel Gangsters on it. And I was like, fam, what is this?
So the name pulled you right in, right?
Instantly, I'm like, I'm done. Like, I'm out. But, he had a car and I didn't. So
you stuck. That's great.
He pushed that joint in, and man, I was like, what in the world is this? In a good way.
Yeah.
In a good way. And then I think it was the song that really made me a fan of them, and Solo specifically, was Tears of a Black Man.
Hey, do you mind if we pause real quick and play that?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so let's pause that so people at least have a little bit of a frame of reference, because this isn't my favorite song off the record, but it's definitely one of my top 3. And I am neither crying nor a black man, but I think I certainly feel like I think this is definitely a song that we should really jump into. You know what I mean? Because I think Christian rap gets a little bit of a slap for not being socially relevant.
And I'ma tell you why. It's no need to wonder. You try to be, but they can lie to me. I try to see through all the hurt inside of me from this society. Bodily, I'm strong, at least I try to be. I can't give to you ID. To me, it seems I have to die to be free from this yoke of oppression. Through it all, I learned a lesson. Keep my faith in confession. Even though I get treated like an outcast. First they get fired, but I'm hired last. I have all my hopes in salvation. Just thinking of me in this nation is frustration. You brought me here against my will on your own route. And now you're looking at me like bone out. But I rejoice in God, yet I sing in tears. If you didn't want the Christian, why you bring me here? To hurt me, to overwork me, or to disperse me? Or make me overlook the grace and mercy? I ask for peace, but the only peace I ever really get is the end piece of your Billy stick. But I still stay Christ-like and humble, although I'm living in the concrete jungle, where you treat me like a beast and then raise me. But when I start acting like an animal, you cage me up. Separated from my family and peers for years and years. Only God knows the tears of a black man. So low, you know the lyrical champion. The black man sheds tears, God's my only hope. So I don't have to gang, bang, or slang, dope, nope. But I wish I could erase the hurt. I tried to drown it in my drinking, but it didn't work. I smoke cocaine to forget my problems. I know it's killing me, I feel my brain throbbing. Now I'm hooked on drugs. It's not like I wanna be, but I gotta do something to leave reality. I get upset, what's the use in trying to see it calm? I can't get a job, although I fought in Vietnam. My life was on the line for this country. Society's a bully, cause they keep trying to punk me. Just swoop down on me like a hungry vulture. It stripped me of my heritage, tongue and culture. You taught me history according to another man. You label me derelict, but that ain't who I really am. I got the mind like the kind of Benjamin Banneker. Still I'm only good enough to be a janitor. My pocket is void, so I'm paranoid. I fed out thousands of bats, still I'm unemployed. My baby's running out of milk, so I'm restless. Don't give me cheese, give me a job and some justice. You say you're gonna give me justice, son, but it seems to me just does get done. Lord, please, as I fall to my knees and plead to God, cause the court will never hear my pleas. And if my soul screams for being angry for years, no one hears, only God can wipe the tears of a black man.
But the must never understand, talking about the tears of a black man. But the must never hear me, but the must never understand. Tell them to say that they love the Almighty One. Solo, come in.
It seems my own people are against me, cause they the ones that's telling me dope, it don't make sense, G. And even though we're both brothers, I bet you if I leave in blue or red, I end up dead or on a stretcher. Forget being hated by someone else. I've been mentally abused so long, I hate myself. It ain't the Klan doing a jacking. Most black crime victims was attacked by black men. No love from my own, just division. And 65% of my brothers is caged in prison. I can't talk to my family on personal topics. They can't help it, but sometimes family gossip. No 9 to 5, yet I strive to stay alive. Got me contemplating crime to survive. When I kill, I know they not understanding me, and I don't wanna steal, but I gotta feed my family. No work for me nor my spouse, and for her to get welfare, they say I gotta leave my house. Now that ain't right, but I walk by faith and not by sight. I'm holding on Christ and gripping him tight. I'm looking at him and not to the white. I don't expect you to. Only God can understand. Besides, you don't have a rag big enough to wipe the tears of a black man.
But the must never understand, talking about the tears of a black man. But the must never hear me, but the must never understand.
Legendary song.
Yeah. That is a long outro. It's like a 10-minute outro right there.
Legendary song, man. It was that song. That was the first song that made me say, you know, maybe I might give this Christian rap thing a go.
Wow.
Maybe, you know, it kind of planted the seed of I don't have to be degrading to make music. You know what I mean? Like, it was kind of the first thing. I wasn't really like a Christian. I wasn't even a rapper at the time, but it was like, yo, it really influenced me, and it really kind of set me on a path to doing what I do now. So,
well, what year did you hear this? I'm really curious to know, because
I can't even tell you, bro. Just being honest.
Well, because this dropped. I was a senior in high school when this came out, and that's 1993. So you're
I was young, bro. Like I was young. But the thing was, like, I started rapping when I was 9. Like, that's when, like, in the studios rapping when I was 9. So like I would listen to, and quite honestly, I listened to all like Gospel Gangsters was the only Christian rap I listened to. Like, to me, it wasn't even Christian rap. It was just another rapper. You know what I mean? So, because to be real, I wasn't even supposed to be listening to rap anyway. So, so if I was gonna sneak,
is this in Pontiac?
Yeah, this is in Tennessee.
Is in Tennessee? Okay.
Columbia. Yeah. So for me, I was listening to them like religiously. Them was like the only cats. And then it was this dude on Grapetree named Antonius that I used to listen to.
Yep.
Them was the two dudes. I would listen to Antonius and I would listen to Gospel Gangsters. Besides, that was my only really exposure to Christian rap. And I'm glad, you know, because I'm doing what I do today.
That's great.
You know?
So what was it about that song that really just, you were like, I mean, that's kind of a pivotal song if this is literally what made you go down the path that you're on now, you know? What was
he brought clarity to what I felt. Like, you know, like, I mean, he's talking about Benjamin Banneker and Tertullian. Right. Like when you hear him talk about
my two favorite lines in that song.
Like, what in the world is he talking about?
And it's a 3-syllable compound word. Like,
yeah, like he is a master. He was a master lyricist, man, and educated. And I think for me, like as I listened to songs like that, it made me think like, wow, like this dude is really doing something. He's not just talking about the hood in a way that makes people want to just be foolish. Like, he's trying to educate people on, you know, and trying to connect with them on a heart level. Like, yeah. It's just something special about rappers like him, rappers like Pac, and who I aspire to be as an artist is, you know, whether I'm the best or not, I want to connect with you at a heart and soul level. And I think that's what Solo was great at doing, was connecting, like songs like Vengeance Is Mine, songs like Do or Die. He always would have a song on every album that was just him, and he just rapping his soul out. Like, and it was those songs that made me a fan, but it actually, I felt he spoke for me, because I didn't really idolize drug dealers. You know what I mean? Like, you know, my dad was on crack. So like my stepdad was on crack. So the drug dealer really was not the guy I really idolized, because I felt like they was taken from our family. You know what I mean? So he really kind of broke down a different perspective, and a perspective that I really related with. So yeah.
I have a few songs that I call it the back of the neck test. So like if the song can make the hair on the back of my neck come up, like it's like an ASMR thing. You know, if you ever heard of that term. So there's only about maybe five rap songs of all time that have given me that feeling. You know, one is Welcome to the Terror Dome by Public Enemy. And this one is definitely one of those. And I find it interesting that if you let's just take the content out for a second. There's no intro on this song. There's no like build. It's literally drop it on the one, boom. He goes right in. And I'm like, I'm even now listening back. I'm like, it's a 3-bar song. I mean, a 3-verse song with like a 2-minute outro, right? And then you have this, you know, raga, you know, toasting kind of hook that I always thought was, at the time, I was like, it totally spoke to me because I grew up on Caribbean music in Florida. Yeah. But now I'm like, there ain't no Caribbean people out in Compton. Like, how in the world, you know what I mean? Or maybe they did, maybe there was. I just never affiliated Caribbeans. You know, to me, that's a Florida thing, right? Yeah, and I'm just like, the fact that they could have done anything on that chorus, that switch up, you know, and I'm just thinking song aesthetics, right?
Right.
I think Dove does just as a phenomenal, you know, he did a phenomenal production. I think me as an East Coast head and as a Florida kid and like someone that raised on East Coast lyricism, you know, to me it was all about break beats and samples, and he weaves, you know, samples in there so effortlessly with the West Coast sound.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, that record was just very like appealing to a guy like myself. Like it won me over. Even though, you know, I grew up listening to NWA and Eazy-E and all this stuff. Right. Yeah. Point is aesthetics. But I think the true mark of a great MC, a great songwriter, is that they bring you into their world, right? The word pictures, right? So, you know, I don't know if I get these questions, but I'm sure you do sometimes, which is like, help me to understand the black man's plight, or help me to understand what's going on in the ghetto, or help me understand the hood. You know, I don't get those type of questions. I might get questions like from back in the day, like, you know, how do I reach these kids in the projects and stuff? And maybe my background can help with that. But if you are watching right now and you ever wanted to understand the perspective of things that happen in ghettos across America for people of color, he darn near does, in my humble opinion. And again, this is me as someone that lived in the hood, but also as an outside observer, like his ability to paint and bring you into the world where never does he ever really like, he doesn't paint a rosy picture, but he also shows the struggle. And one of my favorite lines is the fact he says, I can't get a job, but I fought in Vietnam, which made me realize that Solo wasn't necessarily telling his story, but he was telling the story of all different
everyone. Yes.
Of all different people around him. That might have been his uncle, you know, that might have been his stepdad. That might have been, you know, some guy that he talked to, some homeless dude, you know what I mean? But then if, you know, I ask for peace, but the only peace I ever really get is the end piece of your Billy stick. Like, it's like,
yeah,
just the wordplay. You know, I got the mind of Benjamin Banneker, but I'm only good enough to be your janitor. And for those that don't know who Benjamin Banneker is, you know, I had to bring my Black history up to speed because I was dealing with, you know, a 99% Black youth group. And so I was like trying to empower my kids with people to look up to. Mm-hmm. So it forced me to, you know, not just know like Martin Luther King Day or something like that. So I never tried to go, this is your story, you should know it. It was just going, here are some examples. So when he said Benjamin Banneker, I'm like, of all the people for him to pick, he picks that one. He doesn't pick the easy out of Malcolm X and like Martin Luther King.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Anyway, the point being is like, wherever your perspective is coming in on this song, like if you come into this song with no agenda, you walk away from this song hopefully with understanding. You know, do you agree?
I totally agree. And what's crazy is how relevant, it's so relevant that it's still relevant today.
Right.
You see what I mean? Like this is what,
27 years old.
27 years old. Like, so like he was writing, we talk about getting to the root of issues. Like he was at the root of issues and saying, here is the issue. And he covered it from every side. He covered crime within the community, he covered external crime, covered it's a masterful song. And he was a masterful writer.
Yeah, he's like, and I love the line. He says, "Don't give me cheese, give me a job and some justice."
Yes, absolutely.
Which, you know what I mean? Like, there's 1,000 things. We could do a whole 27 hours on that context right there. It's like the idea that we're just going to give the hood government cheese, but no opportunities. You know, we're going to give the hood a handout. And and the one line there that became really real to me, because I was dealing with housing project kids, which was, he says, he said basically, like, if I get with this woman and get on welfare, I have to leave the house. Yeah. Which I saw that play out over and over with my kids, you know, no fathers. And we kept going, well, the fathers aren't there. Well, sometimes the fathers definitely just abandoned, but sometimes the fathers were literally forced out because it was more conducive to keep a housing project family without a father in there because they got more money.
Or not that they got more money, that you wouldn't get money.
You wouldn't get money, period. Sorry,
you
right.
wouldn't get any money. Like, yeah, like our laws they're better, but they were so conducive to destroying Black families that it's like, yo, in order for you to get any assistance, you can't have a man in the house.
Right.
Like, how evil is that? Like, that's so crazy. Like, okay, in order for you to get assistance, blow your family up. Like, just literally blow it up.
Right. And then I remember, you know, like some of my teenage girls that were in my youth group that, you know, they'd get pregnant right away. And it just was so more conducive for them to keep having kids, because the more kids you have, the higher the welfare check. You know, they automatically would put you in an apartment, and, you know, thus the cycle continues. And
absolutely.
And I love that even in the midst of that, he's not just saying social problems. Like, you hear him essentially saying, you know, I'm hanging on to Christ as much as I can.
Yeah.
You know, so anyway, I think that's the beauty of that song, that that's why we're listening to it 27 years later.
I just hope that what we've done can withstand the test of time like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That impactful, that, you know, that it'll, the young man listening to Derek Minor and Jonah music is going to say, dang, like, he pushed me in a direction to pursue honorable music. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For sure.
So here's something I was going to dive into, and I'm curious to hear your opinion on this, because in all the solo tributes and all the Gospel Gangster tributes, I've heard nobody talking about this angle, right?
All right.
And you already know probably where I'm going here. So I knew about the Gangsters because, you know, I got saved in 1990. I gave my life to Christ. All of a sudden, you know, one of my church friends, like, and I was actually listening to the Christian radio, like Way FM of all things was my first introduction to Christian rap.
Oh, wow.
And I remember getting an album called Phase 3 by SFC. Okay. And actually going and driving 3.5 hours to go see them live, see Soup the Chemist live. But he had a song on Phase 3 called Kill the Spirit. And the context of that song was talking about essentially killing the spirit of the N-word. That's basically what the context of that song was.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And essentially they weren't saying this. I had never heard, I mean, listen, I'd grown up listening to secular rap. I had friends that use the N-word like crazy. I mean, like, it was not, like, I wasn't shocked by that language per se, but I had never heard it in the context of Christian rap. So I had this kind of like cathartic moment of going, because it was on a Christian rap album that I had. Not that I was like offended, but it was more like, this is a very gray area.
Yeah.
But yet the spinning of the song was like saying, this is a spirit, this is an attitude, this is a thought process, this is a unhealthy thing in the Black community. And that's when I first heard Gospel Gangsters, because they were on that song, right?
Okay.
So, but again, it's just a song, right? And it's just another great song on that album. So flash forward, I get this album, right? Gang Affiliated. And the first literal song on Gang Affiliated is like 30 N-bombs dropped, right? And the song is called Before Redemption. So it's beautiful how they did it, is they were saying, this is how we were before redemption. So they're able to be as just gangster as possible, as misogynistic as possible, and they're going, this is how I was before redemption, right?
Right.
It's just such a great literary angle. But the point, what I'm saying is, I had never heard that many N-bombs dropped, just unapologetically dropped, right? And I'm sure got this tape at a Christian bookstore. And this shows how clueless the Christian bookstores were at the time, that they would sell this and never check the content, right? Because there's no way you could let that fly. Well, there's no bookstores left now anyway, but you know what I'm saying. So on one hand, I'm like, I can't believe they got away with it. Two, I'm like, kudos to these guys for being this real, so to speak. Because I had known Christians that gotten saved and they didn't switch this up. My opinion always on the N-word is, obviously this is incredibly off limits for white people, but never have I ever tried to regulate anyone else's use of that.
For sure.
Because that's not my place to do that, so to speak.
Yeah.
But the whole point I want to ask you is, how did you feel about hearing that as a Black male who, you know, in some communities, that's a cuss word. In other communities, it's like how we talk.
Yeah, that's not a cuss word. And where I grew up, it's not a cuss word in my family.
Right.
Like, only reason I've not said it in public is just because I know it offends other people. I'm just being wise. But I have zero issue with a Black person using that word, because, I mean, there's multiple reasons why, but at the end of the day, that's our word. You know, but
I'm saying, you hearing that on a Christian rap record, what did you think about that?
But I grew up with Christians that cussed.
Okay.
I grew up, you know what I mean? Like, so that was just, you know what I'm saying? Like, anyone that knows me know, like I think I realized that I was watching this video of this preacher dude, and it was this Black preacher, and he was just talking just like straight out the hood, but he was telling the truth. And I realized that that's kind of the environment I was raised in the sense that we didn't really have, we had our legalisms, right? You know, certain legalisms, because every culture has legalisms, right? But like, I think we were so down bad at certain times that it was like, man, somebody saying nigga wasn't really like, it's like, this dude smoking crack. Like, you know what I'm saying? Gotcha. We just happy he in the church. This guy over here sells crack.
Right.
We just happy old Date is at the church. So it's like, we weren't really tripping off language like that. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
That's just what it was.
Well, it's I have a couple stories I'll jump in about this, because in just 1 second, but what are you laughing at?
Nothing.
Sorry. I'm watching two screens at the same time, and I just saw you 5 seconds ago, so I'm totally distracted. Anyway, the point where I was getting at, so me and my super best friend in high school, who was like my first real church friend, who turned me on to like tons of Christian hip hop, right? You know, he was like the only other guy at high school that I could talk Christian rap about. Like, he's the only other guy I went to that concert with. You know what I mean? Like, we're super good friends to this day. And he was also super snarky and like a complete like prankster. He called up the Christian radio station and requested, knowing how ignorant they were to the music, but they would do like an all request hour. So this guy goes back and puts it was either Before Redemption or Kill the Spirit. One of these songs where there's literally like 30 N-bombs in the song. And this is on regular Christian radio. Like me and him still laugh about it to this day. Like this was his way of being like, you really need to know, you need to know every part of this music. Like you need to know it. Stop just like giving a cursory lip service to this music. And I find it very interesting that the Gospel Gangsters probably got away with a lot of things because people were so not paying attention.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And I don't think that their audience was, the typical Christian rap audience of today. They were nomads. That's kind of the beauty of not that, like, there's a lot of security in being accepted in the mainstream, but there's also a lot of baggage that comes along with that.
Yes.
So a lot that you have to carry.
Yes.
That, guys that were coming up on the underground, or some of the first guys, didn't really have to carry that baggage as much baggage,
Yes. So it's funny you say all this. So and I'll get a little bit into my story with them and my interaction with them, and we can wrap up there. I know it's Memorial Day at your house and it's mine too, so I really need a jet too. So I'll probably just end with this. But so the very first guys that I ever met were them, and I was just a brand new Christian kid trying to do Christian rap, et cetera, et cetera. And I got this random, this is like literally when I started. I wasn't even KJ, I was King J Mac back then. And I get this random, I didn't even have more than 2 songs finished, but I had gotten onto this compilation. And I get this, I don't know if it's a phone call. It must have been a phone call, or it probably hit me on my pager. That's how old this is. He said, "Hey, I'm doing a show in Huntsville, Alabama with the Gospel Gangsters, and I want you to be one of the opening acts." I had never even left the state to do a show, much less like, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like these guys that I super duper look up to, you're going to fly me out to Huntsville, Alabama to do a show? Like I'm in. It wouldn't matter. And so these are the first guys I'm ever going to meet ever in Christian hip hop, right? And I have 1,000 things going through my head. Are they going to accept me? Like, and I went out and I basically hung out with this guy for a whole week. He was a Black Seventh-day Adventist minister, rapper / community service worker. His name is Minister Fred Whitlow. He's been around forever. He still does a radio show called No More Dirty. He's still down there in Huntsville, and I spent a whole week living with him. We drove around, did camps together. I did a school thing with him. I did all this stuff, and so it's not like the first time I'd ever been around Black people or something like this, but it was the first time I'd ever like lived with a guy for a week who denominationally was different than me. His approach was different than me. And he was a good 10 years older than me, probably. And long story short, Jesus united us and Christian hip hop united us. Wow. And we spent the whole week getting along, with the final culmination being this concert, right? So we had to drive to the Nashville airport to go pick up the Gangsters because they were in town for GMA. This show was around the exact same time as GMA. It was 1995. Okay. And we picked them up the night prior. So, we pick them up in the airport. I don't know them. I'm super quiet. And like a dum-dum, I'm wearing blue flannel, right? Now, this isn't me trying to be a gangbanger. This is me this is 1995. Like, this is still the grunge era, right? Like, white boys wearing flannel and a Scully, it's part Cypress Hill, but it's part Kurt Cobain at the same time, right? So, of course, I roll up, didn't even think about it, right? And I'll never forget, once we got in the car, or maybe when I met him, Solo kind of looked at me, and he looked me up and down, and what he said, he goes, "I wish I could wear that." And it wasn't like judgmental. It wasn't mean. It wasn't rude. It was like, honestly, him saying, "I wish I could be that free to wear that color just out and about." Right. And it didn't even register me what he was saying. It kind of did, but it kind of didn't. And I was doing a lot of inner city ministry at the time. So I had a ton of questions for them, but I was kind of hesitant to ask. So we just started deep diving into, I knew nothing about gang culture. Florida gang culture is like Latin Kings, maybe. But certainly not in the 90s. We weren't banging Crips and Bloods and stuff like that. Like, nowhere was that happening. So I was fascinated about that. I was fascinated about, everything. And of course, it's typical rapper meeting. Everybody's dead quiet in the van ride. It's like a 2-hour drive. Nobody's saying nothing. And little by little, they started kind of opening up. But never once did I ever feel judged. Never once did I ever feel like looked down upon. Never did I ever feel, and they had every reason to be that way to me, right? Who am I? Some freaking 20-year-old white kid wearing all blue, rolling up with the Seventh-day Black Adventist pastor, like, to take you to the show you've never been to. Like, none of that happened. And long story short, you know, that was when I started to realize that they were very real people, that I'm sure they were vetting me in the process. But I think what began to really unite us was just my heart for the gospel, the heart for who Jesus was, and my honest, real heart to want to reach people in my sphere of influence, which was the housing projects. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And I never forget, I asked Solo this question, and it was from an honest place. I said, like, are there white gangbangers, right? Because I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I've never seen a single white person in any NWA video or like any like West Coast. So in my head, I'm like, you know, I was the one white kid in the hood, but never was I ever like hanging out with the black kids. The point being was like, I wanted to find myself in their world.
Yeah.
And he said to me, he goes, yeah, there was a guy, his name was Jason. He was a shooter. He was our one white guy down. He'd grab a gun quick and he'd shoot up. And I just remember thinking, like, there's white gangbangers that hang out in Compton.
The white dudes be the craziest ones because they got something to prove.
Right, that's the Dave Chappelle skit, classic. The point what I'm trying to say is, never was there ever a judgmental thing. And I probably talked to Solo more than anybody, right?
Wow.
And we get to the show. Long story short, the next day, and it turned out their manager was the guy who managed Bubba Gump from the Forrest Gump movie, right? Right. So but he was a super cool guy, very chill. But he was like, yeah, I'm an entertainment lawyer, and you know, you might have heard of one of my clients, Bubba Gump. You know, I led him to Christ or something like this, and he's just going on and on and on. Anyway, we get ready to do the show, right? Long story short, happens. I remember them saying clearly, they're like, hey, I hope you guys are ready to pray, because like we pray, you know. And I'm like, yeah, man, I'm Pentecostal. Let's pray. And we started praying together in backstage at this Huntsville high school, and just real gently, the manager stops and he goes over to me, like in the middle of this. He goes, I just got to share something with you. And I was like, he goes, God has given me a word that when you come back from this show, he goes, you're going to meet the woman that you're going to marry. And it wasn't like trying to knock me over or like sprinkle oil on me. Like, he just shared it in that matter-of-fact tone, right?
Wow.
And I remember thinking about that. And I think he might have shared something encouraging, like, you're just starting out, just be encouraged, do your thing, you know. And I'm sure I went on stage and I'm sure it was okay, but never once did they ever make me feel bad about my lack of ability. You know what I mean? Like, it was just encouragement. And I noticed that was the shift. Like, right after that, it was almost like you're in. You know what I mean? That's the only way I can explain it. It was like I got jumped into the gang, you know? And so case in point is that when I did come back from that show, I was looking for the girl I was going to marry. I'm like looking around. I didn't see nobody. I went on a bunch of dates. I'm like, this guy's a false prophet. He's a false prophet. And I'm telling you, within 3 months of that show, I met the woman that I've been married to for almost 22 years.
That's crazy.
That's one of the few times where someone's given me a word like that. And I forgot about that, right, when it happened. It wasn't like I found her and I'm like, oh, there it is. All this to be said, we rocked the show. We took them back to Nashville to drop them off for GMA. These guys said to me, they go, dub some tapes. We're going to go and try and find you a record deal. We're going to walk around and try and find you a deal at GMA. Now, they may have just been saying that to be nice. They certainly weren't like teasing me. And I just remember being like, who does that? Right? Who does that? Nobody does that. And it was always, you know, Solo was no question the leader. Dub was kind of like, you know, the kind of leader, and then Chill was like the quiet guy. But the point is, I was nobody. That's 1995. I'm 20 years old, right? I'm King J Mac. I have 2 songs to my name and a picture. I sold a picture at the show. That's all I had. Flash forward 5 years later, I'd never seen him since then. Flash forward 5 years later, I get my record deal. You know, life is great. It's the beginning. I ran into them again because we were in the same booking agency, and I'm telling you, it was like the day I just met him prior. They remembered everything about me. They remembered everything about the show. They pulled me aside. They said, how are you doing? What's going on? I'm doing this. And that was when I understood it is sort of like the gang. I love what Solo said. I never stopped my banging, just changed my ganging.
Right.
And that made such an impression on me that I was like, you know what? I'm going to strive to be that in my life going forward. So.
You are that, man. And it's dope to hear. It's dope when you hear people, because, you know, especially guys that are really talented, you rarely hear talent and humility share the same space. But to hear, you know, guys like that being humble, man, it's man, we lost a soldier, bro.
Yeah.
Like, it's a sad thing, man. But man, he's rejoicing with the Lord. So
I'm gonna end this on so me and Solo, you know, 5 years later, I get my record deal, things going on. For some reason I thought at like 5 years into my career, I was a producer. You know how you start thinking, feeling yourself a little too much? Well, my record label just was like, yeah, why don't you go ahead and make a rap record where you're the producer? And I like had Petty D on there, I had Shy Lynn on there, I had, you know, I reached out to Solo. He was one of the other guys. And so I'm like, I'm not going to rap on this album. I'm just going to be the producer. You know what I mean? Like, and not ready to be producing anything yet. But I was just feeling myself. And I remember reaching out to Solo. I sent him this track. He turned it around right away. And the only reason I want to play this, because I think it's so powerful, and I'm just going to play the last minute of it. It's the last. And by the way, those that are watching, I'm going to put this up on my Patreon. You can get it as a free download. It'll be up there in like an hour or so. Patreon.com/KJ52. It's unmixed. You know, this album never came out. None of these songs ever came out. Probably better that way. So what he says, Derek, in his second verse did not dawn on me until I found out about him passing. And it's almost Tupac-ish in the way that he says what he says, but it's such a different twist than what Tupac would do. So I'm going to play this while I'm queuing this up. I was just actually curious. Did you ever have any run-ins or connections with them? You know,
man, the first time I met them was at the Unashamed concert at the Palladium in LA. And that was legendary. Like, I told him, I looked up to him. He just was like a big OG, big bro in that moment, man. But you know, I never really got a chance to really connect with them in that sense. Our path never really crossed much. You know what I'm saying? You know how it is at seeing somebody at the backstage of a show.
Right.
But, you know, I always, you know, I've always valued what they brought to the table. You know, I'm definitely one of those guys that got to show respect where respect is due. And I've always valued, like, anytime people ask me who's one of my top artists, I always mention him. You know what I mean?
Oh. Yeah. Well, I'm going to skip the first verse and jump right into the second verse. The song he wrote was called Bounce.
Roll with me like a passenger. I rep for the king of all kings. I'm the ambassador. Bounce if you gon' bounce. Roll if you gon' roll. Splits in the crossroads. Fish for the lost soul. Bounce if you gon' bounce. Roll if you gon' roll. It's the crossroads. Fish for lost souls. And if I die, I tell you don't cry, homie. No lie, I'ma rise cause he died for me. Told me, dry your eyes cause he cried for me. I shed tears, he took a spear in his side for me. Then told me to tell my homies, help them believe, maybe they can receive. Hearing it from the G's, carry it overseas to the ends of the earth. But first, start in Jerusalem, your friends in the turf. And what's worse, if they was knowing but never growing, or going through life, heard of Christ but never know him, and they don't know the road to the light, I better show them. I'm like Paul when I write, except my letters flowing. I see your cheddar's growing cause you grind for the shine. In minutes, lovers of sales, it's the signs of the times. They'll put a 9 in your spine. We walk in the thin line, that's fine. Man, somebody read them Romans 10:9.
That's crazy.
Can you believe he said, if I die, don't cry for me?
Man, bruh, soldier. A soldier, man. A soldier. Like,
yep.
Big ups to the big homie.
All right, Derek, I know you got to run. You probably got a house full of family, so I won't keep you any longer. I'm going to just grab a couple questions off Facebook and then probably just wrap this up.
Much love, homie. Well, thank you for having me on, man.
Appreciate you, man.
Thank you for sharing them stories, bro. You always had the best stories, though. Like, bro, you always had the most legendary. Like the Lord puts you in legendary situations because.
Well, I have a key. I think I have a spiritual gift for useless knowledge. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know where my keys are, but I can tell you this: top 5 children hugs ever is Derek's kid. There's no question. Like, I walked in one day, I opened the door. I think it was it Zane? Was it Zane? Zane runs around and he's tiny and he just wraps both arms around my legs and he goes, "It's a man!" I was like, I don't care what happens to me for the rest of the day. This hug, this little tiny child hug, has just made my life. Because he says, "Daddy, it's a man."
He doesn't know. He does not know a stranger, bro. Even now, he just doesn't know one. He's never met one in his life.
Yeah, man. All right, well, I'll let you go. I know you got things to do. Enjoy your barbecue or whatever you're doing. I know you're a good cook, so you're going to kill it. So you have a great day, man. Love you, man. Appreciate you.
Love you too, bro.
Later. All right, so you guys, thanks for sticking in. I know there's a bunch of questions over here on Facebook. I'm going to grab a couple, and then I'm going to wrap this up. Again, if you like that song, go to my Patreon. It'll be up in about an hour, patreon.com/KJ52. You can actually also, I'm working on 2 tracks right now that I'm looking for people to guest feature on. If you do want to actually jump in to be a patron for my Patreon, you can, for $10, be a part of those songs, or at least get the tracks to them. So anyway, I'm gonna grab a couple questions off the Facebook. William Freewill Gonzalez says, "KJ, what was your favorite Gospel Gangster song besides Tears of a Black Man?" Honestly, I really loved Before Redemption, because the word pictures that's painted on that song are phenomenal. Now, I would just want to say, full disclosure, there's a lot of N-words on that song. Please, you might not want to play that around your kids if you're offended by that word. But I see the art in that song of what is going on there. Plus, it has like this really dope Rocky sample. So another question, David Thomas, something you were able to work on with him. Good to see my faves talking about my other fave. Disappointed you never got them on an official album. Yeah, well, I mean, this project was like my idea that I was going to get everybody featured on, and it just kind of got hung up in label red tape. But the reality was I wasn't really ready to be producing a full record. I was biting off a little more than I could chew. So anyway, another question from Matthew Burke says, "What made you change that original rap name?" Because it was terrible. It's hokey. King J Mac is a cornball rap name. I mean, it was just something I came up with when I was like 18. It was too long. King J Mac rhymes with whack. That was a bad one. David Thomas says, "That wasn't a bad beat." Well, I appreciate that. But I think I was only at the beat maker level then. I wasn't really at the producing level. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of where I was at with that. Let me go ahead and grab a couple more questions if you guys got them. Maybe I'll scroll up a little bit and see if there's any questions I might have missed. Nope. I guess that's it. Patrick Moore says, "I'm looking into expanding my Christian hip hop. What do you recommend?" Man, there are so many things to pick from right now. I would have to say it probably comes down to more like what style of rap you're into than what I would recommend. I love Marty Marr's new stuff. I think he's doing some great music. Of course, Derek's the homie. I'm trying to think of some other stuff that's like really piqued my interest lately. I like this Holvey kid. I think he's really dope. My kids love, a lot of the Reach guys. They love Andy Mineo, of course. William J. Rev Brandt says, "If you still live, how much fun was the song Game Face and Superhero songs that you did?" Game Face was a blast. Still is a blast. I have that in my set still. Superhero was dope. I remember Superhero. That was the one song I've ever worked on till literally the sun came up and I drove to the airport straight from the studio. I remember that. Another couple questions. Will I be touring again after COVID? It's going to depend I still have some shows. Jonah Shalley says, "Would you battle NF?" Come on, man. I should ban you. William Freewill Gonzalez says, "Did you ever do any tracks by DJ Dove?" No, but I remember way back in 2000, Dove wanted me to be on a song with 1,000 Foot Crutch back when they were signed to Dove's label. Derek Grimsley says, "How did Solo pass away?" He was a good artist. From what I've heard is that he passed from cardiac arrest. Heart attack is what I've heard. Yeah. Any more questions? Let's see here. What is Dove doing now? I have no idea. In fact, I don't think they worked with Dove after that first album. Jonathan Santos, did you ever consider doing Dear Slim Part 3? There is a Dear Slim frequently asked question version on my Patreon only. So if you want that, go become a patron. You know. Jerry Caldwell says, is there an age too old to do gospel rap? I don't know, but probably 5. I'm getting close to it. Mary Sorrentino says, are you going to do more with the Newsboys? No, Mary. Okay, you can rest easy now. David Watkins, 50-year-old here working on rap. What do you think? Got a lot of music I'm planning on sending out. If you got it, put it out. Do it. There's no age limit on, here's an analogy I want to say about age and music. Nobody cares how old the life raft is when you throw it to someone who's drowning. There you go. Kelvin Wisdom Brantley says, what drives your songs? Like, what inspires you? Sometimes it is just circumstances, it's situations, it's real life, it's scripture, it's, my twisted sense of humor, tons of stuff like that. William Freewill Gonzalez says, any more collabs with Pigeon John? No, probably not. There's nothing personal against John. John really isn't doing Christian music, per se anymore. So, but John's the homie. I did you need to go read my book, because there's a hilarious stories about me and with me and John called Dinosaur Jesus on my new book, Victory Lap. Josh Allen says, can you do something with Peabod? Do a remix of Shoot from the Hip. Man, I got to meet Peabod this summer. That dude is a really good guy. I really dug his vibe. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't talked to him in a minute. David Watkins, will this Zoom video stay on your Facebook page? Absolutely. And you can always get these video podcasts on my podcast, kj52podcast.com, or just search KJ52 Podcast, and you can subscribe and get some stuff like that. Dwayne Goodling, thanks for giving great music. I'm sorry. What's the story behind the song Picture by Dwayne? Dwayne, the story behind that is it's a fictional story. It was just something I wanted to write, That's really all it came down to. Stacy Cotton, any words from the Lord spoken to you that you found powerful? Stacy, you need to go and listen to my message I just shared at the church that I work at now, called 3 Perspectives on a New Normal. It is all about what God was laying on my heart. So you can go and check that on my Facebook page. You can also go and check it on my podcast. Patrick Moore says, you should check out Whosoever South. They combine Christian hip hop with Southern gospel. So you and Jason Crabb could work in theory. Patrick, do you want me to ban you from the internet? Patrick, I have a song with Whosoever South. Patrick, I'm on Whosoever South's album. Patrick, have you used Google, Patrick? Patrick, come on, man. Come on, Patty Moore. What are you doing? Of course I know Whosoever South. That's my homies. I've stayed at their house. I've churned their butter. I've gone hunting with them. I have a whole video with them. So sorry, Patrick. I'm just lashing out. I'm also hungry. Steven says, not that it matters since we're brothers in Christ. What denomination church are you on staff at? Just wondering. I thought you said Pentecostal a little while ago. It is non-denominational. So we don't have a particular, we're in the ARC fellowship per se, but we're non-denominational. We have a little bit of everybody kind of represented, but realistically, myself and the lead pastor and pretty much everybody comes from a charismatic background. But the best way you could describe us is something that my lead pastor said. He said, charismatic with a seatbelt on. So there you go. Drew Hobbins says, when I was in elementary, I wrote a letter to the Gospel Gangsters, invited them to my school as a class assignment. That's awesome. That is awesome. All right, I'm going to grab 2 more questions, and I really got to go, y'all. It's getting late. But hit me with 2 more questions. And Patrick, I'm not going to ban you from the internet. I love you, bro. I just want you to hear the songs. William Freewill Gonzalez says, you've mentioned your Florida and Caribbean feel. Have you thought of doing songs with Benja or Christafari? Benja is the homie. I don't know how much music he's doing anymore. Christafari, I don't really know the guys. So, Mel Mendoza says, KJ, did you know Chandler, a.k.a. DJ Eye Candy from West Virginia, became a TikTok celebrity? He mentioned you a lot when you had him on stage at Jesus Fest. Yes, I've actually been DMing back and forth with Chandler. I saw that he blew up on the TikTok. He's way too pretty. He was way too pretty to be a DJ, man. He had a face built for TikTok, so good for him. Josh Allen Pullman said, "Are you still addicted to Mountain Dew? What do you think, bruh? Do you think I would look this good if I was still sucking down Mountain Dews 18 years later? No. No. But you can go get the Mountain Dew remix on my Patreon, patreon.com/KJ52. What happened to the artist that's on your song, What Is Love? Can't think of his name. I don't even know what song you're talking about. What is love? You talking about like the old dance song? What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me no more. I don't know what song you're talking about. Yeah, man. All right, Law. I got to go. I got things to do. I love you guys. I hope you had an incredible Memorial Day. Go subscribe, kj52podcast.com for these incredible podcasts that's been going on the last couple of weeks. I've been super excited about what we've been doing. Go to my patreon.com/KJ52. You can get this song that I dropped today for free. Oh, you meant This Is Love. This is love. That's Amani. I have no idea what happened to him. He's a good guy, though. He's a good dude. Yeah, so go check that out. Become a patron. Support the music. Contrary to rumors, I'm not dead, and I'm still making music. All right, y'all. Love you guys. Have a great day. Peace. God bless.